Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dillon.
And welcome to Adaptation Station Season 5.
Yeah.
This is the show where we review books and their movie adaptations. One of us reads the book and then watches the movie.
The other watches the movie and then reads the book.
Then we give you our recommendation for which order gives you the best experience.
And today, to kick off Season 5, we are talking about Beloved. I read the book first, so let me tell you about the book. Beloved is a novel written by American writer Toni Morrison, published in 1987. Taking place mostly in Ohio right after the American Civil War, it tells the tale of a family haunted by slavery. The movie follows the same plot, so why don't you tell them more about the movie?
Yeah, the movie adaptation came out in 1998. It was directed by Jonathan Demme. Again, we don't do our due diligence of looking up pronunciations. I feel like I did it like way early on in one of our top fives where I looked up how to say Jared Leto versus Leto or Leto.
Yeah, and then we lost our journalistic integrity.
We lost it all after that. Anyway, this is the Academy Award-winning director of Silence of the Lambs, so somebody knows how to say his name. It's not us.
Yeah.
It stars Oprah Winfrey as Seta, a mother who was born into slavery but escapes to a home in Ohio where she lives with her daughter Denver, played by Kimberly Elise. One day, they get a surprise visit from Paul D., played by Danny Glover, who was also also a slave at Sweet Home, the plantation from where Seta escaped. Another surprise visit is a strange young woman named Beloved, played by Tandy Newton, or Tandaway Newton, as she goes by now. Oh. I think that was more of a stage name. Tandy Newton, one of those kind of like shorten your name kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, let's get into the spoiler-filled review as usual, and I'll start first with my reaction to the book, because that's the first thing, and I read it first. And the first thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if this will sound like a strange comparison, but I had a similar experience reading Beloved that I did reading Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, another episode we did. What I mean by that is that they're both undeniably good writing at the sentence level, but how much the plot kept me involved was up and down throughout. In terms of magical realism, though, it's more similar to Mexico's most translated novel, Pedro Páramo, by Juan Rulfo. We didn't do an episode on this, but this is just one I read recently. They both mix their country's history, Mexico and the United States, in a non-chronological plot with themes of life and death blending together that leaves room for interpretation. Even when the story's over, you might not know who was alive or dead in Beloved and Pedro Páramo.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation for the episode. If you like Beloved, the book, I recommend Pedro Páramo.
Yeah, that's interesting that you describe it that way, because I also kind of didn't like Love in the Time of Cholera, like you were describing this up and down, having read it first. For me, reading it second, what I noticed is that, to me, the book I thought was better at conveying the overall message of the story, so it feels more cohesive. I was less confused. Maybe that's from having seen it second. You know, like I've experienced the story twice at that point.
Yeah, you got the main
idea. I was a little more
from
confused during the movie,
yeah.
And then I got it better during the book. But like overall, for both the ending of the book and the movie, to me, are both perfect. With Paul D. telling Seta that she's her best thing, you know.
Yeah, that's a nice moment. I agree with that.
Yeah, and like as far as like the up and down thing, I think we both agree that in the book there's a couple chapters in there that change perspective. There's from the perspective of either Denver or the one from Beloved specifically is kind of very bizarre and like kind
abstract, almost like a weird poem,
unnerving, and everything. And so that was a little bit strange. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it's definitely experimental in a way that's like, if that experiment worked for you, you'll probably love the book. If not, I don't know, you might hate it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I get another thing about the book that we kind of talked briefly that I have an introduction in my copy that you don't have.
Yeah, I have an older
by
copy of the book with no intro.
Toni Morrison, that the book is inspired by a true story where it doesn't seem like there's a lot of information about it, but where of Margaret Garner, similar story where she escaped slavery and then potentially killed her children or attempted to protect them from going back into slavery.
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't know that. Well, reading it, I didn't have an intro. That's
yeah, and obviously I watched it before I read the book too, so I didn't know it when I watched it.
So more context you didn't know while watching the movie.
Yeah.
I will say about the movie, I feel like the movie did a good job with that scene where you discover that Seta tries to kill all her kids to stop them from going back to slavery. Similar to what you said, maybe it's because I read the book first and then I'm getting some reinforcement while watching the movie as the second thing, but it felt more revelatory in the movie to me, like a big... the book was just kind of confusing, and so I was like, is that what happened? I don't really understand. But then in the movie, it's like a big climactic scene where she thinks the slavers are coming back. Like, she sees them coming, and...
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a bigger reveal.
That is kind of funny because we're both saying that it's like a bigger reveal. It's a big, like, we both, I think, agree that it's like this big reveal in the thing that it was less understanding. Like, whichever... Yeah, whatever. I mean, it was just like we didn't understand as much the thing we did first.
So the takeaway really is that it's just kind of a confusing story.
It is a little confusing.
That you need to review.
Yeah,
to fully like take it in.
Going back to like you were talking about the movie, I thought that the like creepy quick cut flashbacks were effectively scary. Like that's how it kind of like starts out doing that, and like you don't know what's going on, and that's different from the book because the book kind of does tell you some of the backstory as you go along. It's not as like the movie's like
horror movie
it's like makes it more horror. And other than that, the movie kind of was a bit of a slow burn. Like you're saying, this is like a 3-hour long movie.
Yeah, it is long.
And for the whole like first half of the movie, at least, I just like I don't know what's going on, at all. Yeah. But it, like I said, it does come together well at the end. Like I really liked the ending, and Kimberly Elise as Denver in this movie is a standout to me because like I've not seen her in anything else, but I thought she did a really good job. I was actually kind of surprised at how well Oprah Winfrey did in this movie. I don't really know her as being an actor today. She's not really primarily known for her acting.
I think around the time we grew up, she was already like just TV host personality. Yeah. Oprah Winfrey Network, like whatever, entrepreneur type media mogul. Yeah. I agree. I didn't really know her for her earlier acting.
Yeah, and I kind of understand why... with this movie, though, that I haven't heard about it. Like, I'd heard about the book, and the movie, though, I think is because it is disturbing. It's very disturbing, and in that way, it is powerful. But because it is disturbing and it's so long, it's not surprising. I mean, but Danny Glover's in this movie, you know what I mean? And I would have thought that I would have heard of it, but I hadn't heard of it at all. But because I'm saying it's disturbing, but it's powerful, I do think it's an important story, and the movie is probably more accessible to people than the book.
Interesting.
Just because, I don't know, movies are easier for people.
Yeah,
I think,
and the book is hard to read when it's such a confusing story. It's hard to take it in on the page, but yeah, I agree it's an important story. That's probably why it's considered kind of a classic American novel of our modern era. Mm-hmm. As for the movie, it's interesting that you say that it might be more accessible. For me, having read the book first, I did think that the movie is overall a good interpretation of the book. The same things happen generally.
Yeah.
And the way that they show it and the horror elements, I think were well done. However, I did not like how Tandy Newton played the character Beloved. Yeah. Not at all how I pictured it in the book. I mean, she shows up and she's so much more like a zombie than I pictured it in the book.
I'm glad that she wasn't like that like the whole time, because it would have been a little much, because she was like...
Yeah, she kind of
And so,
becomes
yeah.
more human, but yeah, she like has the mind of a baby, I guess. And then
Yeah.
she's doing that weird gurgly
Yeah.
thing, like I guess because she just came out of the swamp or something,
Yeah.
right? She's
Or
like a
she came out of hell via
Yeah.
the swamp, kind of, you know.
she is like technically a zombie,
Yeah.
you could say. I mean, I was getting more like ghost-like vibes from the book,
Yeah.
though. That like, but also the important thing is like in the book when she first showed up, I think along with the characters that she's a human, like she's just a regular person that showed up. That's more believable to me that it's like that they believe she's just a regular person, whereas in the movie she shows up and it's like this is like Frankenstein's monster or something. How do they think she's just a regular girl that needs help?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, to me, it didn't seem like it was like she's just a regular girl. Obviously, like something weird is up, you know. But I hadn't read the book first, so I got the same thing from watching the movie where I was like, I don't really know who this is, and it took a long time to even sort of figure out that that's what was going on, because it doesn't come up front and make it really clear that that's Beloved, that that's her child.
Yeah. Which I like in the book more, that it keeps you guessing about that. In the movie, it made it more like this monster showed up and what is it? But I will say in the movie, I did like how they had Paul D. Danny Glover seeing the redness in Beloved when she first shows up. It does kind of that horror movie thing where Beloved comes in and it's like, I don't know, the lighting changes and like you can tell that only Paul D notices it. And then Seta and Denver are more like treating her like a normal person. But he kind of sees like something spooky's going on.
Well, yeah, and he could tell from the beginning, even before Beloved comes out of the river or whatever, that when he first steps in the house, he gets that feeling that shows it in the
haunted
movie
house
where it's like,
feel.
This house is, something's going on here.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of his opinion from the beginning, like, you kind of need to get out of this place.
Yeah, I think he says something like, there's some anger here, and she says, not anger, only sadness or something, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right. Overall, I want to say about the movie, it's hard to make a movie of this because the book doesn't really lend itself well to an adaptation. It would be difficult to do.
Yeah.
So overall, I think they did a good job, but even though the movie felt long, it also felt like they left some stuff out.
Yeah, like we were saying, it's very faithful overall, but there's a couple things missing that I liked about the book. Paul D's backstory.
Yeah, I liked those parts of the book.
Not talked about like at all in the movie.
Yeah, because he had a whole story, like a whole chapter of escaping and being on the run.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then, besides just him by himself, like there's more about Sweet Home talked about in the book as well. In the movie, it's basically like they mention it and you have these little flashbacks.
Yeah,
these little
small flashbacks.
That's
true. In the book, you kind of learn about their teacher and like other characters.
More characters, yeah.
Sweet Home. Yeah.
And how they escaped and stuff.
Regardless of the medium, the way that you consume this story, we wanted to get into some final interpretations of what the story brings to the table before we get into our final scores. So to me, Beloved is a really interesting take on a ghost story. U.S. history's twist on magical realism, in my opinion, reincarnating the sins of slavery to remind us that the karmic energy of history is never created or destroyed, only transferred. And we see that trauma, that karma coming back in the characters of Seta, even after they've seemingly escaped the past.
Yeah, and like kind of as an additional thing or beyond that from my perspective, like this story doesn't need to be seen only as a slavery story. Like it is very much that, but it can also be just a general allegory, representation for the effects of like generational trauma and how that's passed down. So like Seta becomes free, but because she was born into slavery and had that trauma in her life, by her actions and her behaviors and her treatment of her children, she kind of passes that trauma down to her children, even though that behavior might be subconscious, as far as like this in this kind of metaphor or whatever, I guess. And if the character of Beloved represents her trauma in a way, it's like Beloved represents this this trauma that she has gone through. And then it's something that her whole family lives with, not just her. Like, it's not just her that is haunted by the things that have happened in her life and what she's done. It affects their whole family.
Absolutely. It just gets passed on because, it doesn't just get erased.
Yeah, it doesn't just go away so fast. And that applies to slavery too, as a trauma, and specifically in this story.
Yeah, that's just the context.
That's just like how it can be more broadly applied. And then also the idea that parents have to make hard decisions. They have to do what they think is right in that moment. And maybe it does mess your kids up in some way, but if it was right and you think it was right, hopefully it puts your kids in a better place than you had it. Even if it seems like a bad thing, it's hopefully not worse. Like in this context, it's like you could see that what Seta did, with killing Beloved, it causes all this harm to her family, but still it kept her kids out of slavery, which did prevent a greater harm.
Yeah, compared to slavery,
yeah,
it's an extreme example. But...
And so they'll end up in a better place than she was, and it's like that's kind of like the struggle that parents have to make these hard decisions, where they may not be the perfect decisions, but it's just about being incrementally better for your kids. And then a third thing, I have a lot of things. I had a lot of thoughts about this story. But when all the ladies from town come to do the exorcism, they kind of realized that they left Seta behind, in a way. And it's like not right to leave someone behind and not help them. Even if you think that they made a mistake or did something that you think is bad, like to give somebody a chance for like redemption if they are a part of your community, right? Yeah. Or someone that, is part of your social circle or whatever, or your family, because like they don't agree with her, but it's also not right to just outright cut her out and shun her from society because of that. And on the flip side of that, though, Seta was also not asking for help from them. Yeah,
she secluded herself.
Yeah, she secluded herself from that. And that kind of overall message there being that you should ask for help, when you need it from your community, your family. Yeah. But also that people should give help without being asked. Both things should exist. And it's important to know that, and that's important for communities affected by discrimination or any kind of hardship, where people need to lift each other up because other people may not be lifting them up, and that's your only community that you have to turn to. So give them, forgive them for that thing and help them to move on and do better in the future and rise up.
Yeah, that can be hard when, people outside your community are not giving you help. It's easy to kind of retreat into yourself and not want to ask for help. That's why it's important to have a community, like you're saying, that they can see when you need it. So it's nice to offer it without being asked. Mm-hmm. In the case of Beloved, as an example, the community finally comes to help only after Denver leaves the house on her own volition for the first time. Like, she's secluded because Seta secludes her family. But eventually Denver, wants to improve. So she goes out and she's asking for help in a way because she's trying to get a job. Yeah. Things like that to support her family. Yeah. And that's when the community starts to notice, like, oh, she's putting in this effort to reach out. And that's what motivates them to come do the exorcism. Which
and that is kind of like a example of Seta's children being better off and making better decisions than she did in a way. Some better decisions. Not that she did this decision that she could do, but her decision to not reach out for help. Denver kind of did do that in a little way. And
she wouldn't have been able to do that, within the system of slavery.
Exactly.
So, she did put her in that situation. And the community recognizing that she's asking for deeper help, and the character Beloved representing Seta's trauma. Something that stands out about that to me is that how she gives more attention to Beloved than Denver, and Denver resents that. Thinking of it as, Beloved not being a real character, but just a representation of her trauma is interesting. That, you can imagine a person like Seta is living in her past trauma, kind of reliving it, and basically being alone and ignoring her living child.
Mm-hmm.
So she's living in her past trauma instead of giving attention to her living daughter that is present and represents the future.
Yeah.
But there's a hard struggle there. Like you said, she's in a way ignoring her future and the next generation, but she did put her living daughter, Denver, in a better situation that lets her work to save her mother eventually and improve their situation overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of nuance to it, and that's what makes a good, compelling story that becomes a classic, is that, characters and situations that are not just like cut and dry, where, there's nuance and you have to allow that.
Yeah, and classics like this are usually nuanced, and they become considered classics because, an English teacher can take this book and just endlessly talk about it.
Yeah.
I feel like we could sit here all day and talk about it like we've already been going for a while.
Yeah.
So we should pretty much get into our final scores. Yeah. Before we get into that, I do need to do an ad read. Today's episode is brought to you by Baby Suggs' Ghost Extermination Service. Is your family's house haunted by the ghost of your nation's greatest shame? Baby Suggs' internationally recognized but patent still pending ghost exterminating vacuum device will clear that funky phantasm right up. Go to bit.ly/ghostbegone. That's all capital letters GHOST, the letter B, GONE, Ghost Begone, all caps, case sensitive, bit.ly/Ghost Begone.
When did we get a sponsor?
Last night.
What do you mean last night? Did you get an email from them or something?
It was a call.
They called your phone? Like, did you send them your number asking for a sponsorship? That doesn't really sound real.
Well, not my phone. Like, they called me like I heard a voice calling to me.
You just heard a voice?
Yeah, I kept repeating this ad read, like that whole script, and I kept hearing it in my head or outside my head, and I got out of bed and I wrote down the whole thing, and then finally the voice went away, so I fell asleep.
But you had a URL and everything. Like, where does that go to?
Good question. I don't know. I didn't check. I just wrote it down, went to bed, and it sounds kind of scary. I don't want to go look at it,
Oh. Thank you, Baby Suggs Ghost Exterminator Service, for sponsoring this video.
Link down in the description. Okay, now getting into our final scores. I read the book first, and I gave the book a 7.4 out of 10.
Okay.
Pretty good.
All right.
Not exactly my cup of tea, but I have to recognize it's good. As for the movie, I gave that one a 6.
Oh. Yeah, okay, I'll get into mine. The movie's first, and that's where you'll get my reaction there. I watched the movie first. I give it a 9.6.
Oh, wow.
I really liked it. It was very powerful and emotional, by the end, because there was so much to it. I don't know. Anyway.
I could tell you were going to rate it higher, but that's really high.
Yeah, I really liked it. And then I also really liked the book. I read the book second. I give it a 9.
Oh, interesting. So you like the movie more?
I did like the movie a bit more, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really interesting. Well, we have very different scores for these, so let's combine our scores to see if Beloved is overrated or underrated.
Yeah, so for the book, our combined score is 8.2.
Really strong.
Pretty good. I gave it a pretty high score. Your score wasn't too bad.
Mine was good, yeah. But over on Goodreads, the users over there give it a 3.97 out of 5 or a 7.94 out of 10 on our scale.
Yeah, so we're still saying it's slightly underrated.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good score on Goodreads. Almost basically an 8. And we're still saying maybe a little bit underrated. Yeah,
because for this one, we kind of went on opposite sides of the reader's score, because I'm a little below it, but you're kind of way above it. So, we have to say it's slightly underrated.
Yeah.
But what about a movie?
For our movie scores, our average is 7.8.
Still solid, pretty close score, actually. However, over on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics give it a 72% and the audience a 70%.
So again, I think we're kind of slightly underrated.
Yeah, that's like within the range of our score, but
Yeah.
quite a little bit lower. Yeah, so both Beloved book and movie are slightly underrated.
Yeah.
Check them out. Okay, as for our final recommendations, I read the book first and I liked the book better, so I'm going to say read the book first.
Okay.
It did make the movie feel long to watch it right after reading, but I still wouldn't want to switch my order and watch the movie first. That would make the book seem too long, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to say read the book first and then watch the movie.
Yeah, I say the opposite. I say watch the movie first. Because I obviously really enjoyed the movie, 9.6. And based on your score, I almost think that if anything, it made me enjoy the book more. I gave the book a 9 still after watching the movie.
Both
so
your
I would
scores are higher than me.
I would say that order is good. I mean, you get all the same stuff from reading the book second, plus some extra stuff, which is always nice on a second viewing to get more, or a second consuming of the story, to get a little bit more, especially if you liked the story the first time. So
that's
what I would
interesting. I think this one's a little bit difficult, and maybe I'm just defaulting to reading the book better. I usually default to that, reading the book first.
Right.
And the fact that I read the book first this time. So this one, we disagree. Audience, it's up to you. You got to make a decision which one to do first. But now let's get into our ongoing ranking in terms of our combined scores. Where do these land on our huge list of things?
Yeah, so now we've got 66 different things, books and movies total on our list.
That's almost the devil's number,
Oh,
which is
my
perfect
goodness.
for Beloved.
Well, let's see if one of these things lands at a number 6 on here.
Oh, I hope not.
Nope, the first thing we get to is the book at number 15, which is pretty high up in there.
Pretty high.
You know, it's like in the top quarter, I would say. Yeah. And it's right below the Drive My Car movie, and right above the Congo book.
Those were both really good in my memory. Drive My Car, the movie, and Congo, the book. So
yeah.
Good company, Beloved. As for the movie, though, it looks like we need to move down.
But not too far down.
Yeah, it's right there, but there is a 5-way tie for number 19. We have so many things, and there's only so many numbers between 1 and 10.
Yeah.
So 5-way tie between Beloved, the book, Green Mile, the movie, Sphere, the movie, Bullet Train, the book, and Animal Husbandry, the book.
Wow, yeah, it's just going to happen more and more the longer this list gets.
Yeah, I would also say Good Company for the movie. I mean, Green Mile's a great movie. I like the Sphere one, underrated. Yeah, those are all great. So that was Beloved. Thank you for joining us on the first episode of Season 5, but what are we doing next month, right?
Next month, we'll be reading Cell by Stephen King, and then watching the movie adaptation starring Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack.
Awesome. As for Beloved, viewer, you tell me, which is better, the book or the movie?
Let us know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends to tune in too.
You can click another video now. Thank you. Bye.